Next panel discussion of this day is about omnichannel communications revolution, building customer trust and loyalty through reliable, trusted, and personalized communications in BFSI. And we are delighted to welcome our moderator, Mr. Shardendu, partner Ernst & Young, to join us on stage, please. And we request our panelist, Mr. Peshotan Dastoor, Group President and Head of Sales, UTI Asset Management Company, Mr. Rajiv Mishra, Executive Director, Bank of India, Mr. Sameer Jadhav, EVP for Digital Products, Innovation and Partnerships, Aditya Birla Capital, Mr. Tushar Agnihotri, EVP South Asia, Proximus Global, Customer Engagement, Digital Transformation and Financial Services. A warm welcome to all our panelists and moderator. Let's have a round of applause as we welcome them on the stage, and I request Mr. Jha to lead the conversation. Thank you.
Check, check. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Great to be here and really ecstatic to be sitting with some of the stalwarts of the industry. I'm sure that we will have some, golden words from them in terms of our topic today. But before I introduce the topic, let me take you back to late 80s and early 90s, right? Where I think there were a lot of things which were not there that time. One, I think the adoption of banking, or basically the number of unbanked, were too high. Second, if you look at the only channel we had that time was branches, and they were like quite close to people. And I see a lot of young faces, so sorry about things which I say now, which may not actually be able to relate. You won't be able to relate to those. Also, if you look at that time, I think the way that it used to work is we did not have core banking, which means that every account and customer was very tightly coupled with the specific branch. If I remember my younger days, my father used to take me to branch, my nearby branch, and I come from a very small town called Bilaspur in Chhattisgarh, erstwhile MP. When we used to go there, the branch manager used to know all his customers by name. He used to know all his customers by face. He used to know their social, stature. He used to know the family members. He used to know their short-term, medium-term, long-term goals. On the other side, the customers were truly trusting the branch manager in terms of what they should be investing in, how they should be covering some of their expenses going forward. If they say that, okay, you need another bank account and keep some fund for some specific reason, they would just go with that. And I'm talking about my father, right? So he also used to do the same, which means that there was a very trusted relationship between the bank and the customer. Now, fast forwarding that to today's world, we have, of course, the unbanked population has gone significantly down thanks to the government policies and the banks, to come up with technology with purpose on financial inclusion. If you look at, there are multiple channels now. So you have digital channels, you still have branches, you have chat, you have WhatsApp, you have customer services, and so on and so forth. So multiple channels. And if you see that, based on those channels, I think complexity has also gone significantly up. As a consumer, I would expect, the same kind of experience across different things. And this is where our topic for today comes into play, which is about omnichannel customer communications revolution, building customer trust and loyalty through reliable, trusted, and personalized communications in BFSI. So there will be 4 sections, sirs. I think the first section, we will look at just a little bit more context in terms of what you see the changing needs of the customer, what you see are the gaps, etc. The second section is more about what are the industry doing holistically to address those challenges. Third, how technology and AI and data is helping fast track some of those changes as well. And maybe we conclude it by looking at the resilience, the security, and trust factor of those as well, right? So maybe with that, if I may start with you, Rajiv. What does omni-channel communication mean in today's BFSI context, and how is it different from the traditional multi-channel approach?
Thank you, Jhaji. The fact that you just narrated the entire story from where the banking started, where it was a channels agnostic, because there were no channels. In fact, there was only one channel, there was a brick and mortar branch. And I was listening to the discussion prior to our panel here, where some of the person asked a question whether UPI is going to be the only thing and cash becomes irrelevant. And then the answer came with that fact that the rural India still looks at the cash-based economy and then we need a UPI. Now that's one channel where they were trying to see that can UPI be the only digital channel which is going on. And here we are looking at the customer experience where from a person who had to take out a time, go and visit a branch, a brick and a mortar branch and do a transaction, to a place where we say we want to do a transaction on the go. So there's a movement where the entire shift has happened, basically because of the networks which have evolved, the technology which has evolved, and then we have started giving multiple channels. Now, we have multiple channels, as you rightly narrated. There's a branch still exists. It has its own relevance today also. We have internet banking, mobile banking, WhatsApp banking. You name that phrase, there are multiple apps which you give you the freedom to act in. Now, do I get seamless, frictionless journey across? Then the other part is, do I need to narrate the story every time I visit every new channel? So supposing I visit a branch, I ask for a certain thing, and I'm been told a certain set of documents to be required. Now, after knowing that what is to be done, I go home, call back the call center, and the call center again lifts the phone and asks me the same story again. Am I willing to go through that entire agony of going to repeat the same story? No. I need to be picked up where I left. I need to give the seamless behavior what has happened. So whether it's my call center, whether it's my branch, whether it's my app, mobile banking, internet banking, or WhatsApp banking, the experience has to be seamless across. So that's where the customer says, I need to get what I want, and at my time, my pace, my experience. So earlier days, we used to call it UI UX. That was the focus area of the banks. Or any app development or a tech development company that give a best of the user experience with the graphics and other things. Now it is not UI, UX, it is CX. It is customer experience which we are trying to. So the customer experience which we are building in, that changes the entire narrative, and that's where this omni-channel presence or need has come into picture. Now the customer says, it is at my time, my channel, my way of handling the business which is there, because it's my business. So the power has been given from the banks or from the way we handle the business to the customer in his hand. That's how it is.
Fantastic point. Thank you for that, Rajiv. Maybe, Samir, if I just take it to the next step in terms of what, according to you, are the biggest gaps that exist right now in the BFSI institutions who are managing the customer communication across different touch points?
Yeah, so I think like Mishra ji said, the first big challenge we have is how do we stitch these different physical and digital channels together, whether it's WhatsApp, email, branch. Companies have tried to do it with a CDP or building a customer 360-degree view, but that has been a distant dream for many of the BFSI players. The challenge there being, if you have a WhatsApp chat, how do you really push the real-time data stream from a WhatsApp chat or a phone conversation into a CDP? Do we have cost-effective ways to do that? So one is the whole stitching the channels layer has been really missing. People have tried it with CDP, but has not really worked that well. The second aspect is the silos that exist between functions. Imagine a customer is complaining to customer service about an issue, and a marketing team sends, this is your next best offer. So just imagine the frustration that the customer will go through because the functions within an organization don't talk to each other when it comes to a communication that happens across the channels. And the third big thing is we're still living in a world of standardized templates. We're still relying on bulk communication. Like you said, personalized communication, whether it is language, content, imagery, we have really not reached there. So I see these three as big challenges that are facing BFSI today.
Fantastic point, fantastic point. Thanks, Samir. Maybe if I come to you, Peshotan, just talk about, we all went through, I would say, the generative change as part of pandemic. How have customer expectations evolved since pandemic in terms of how, when, and where they want to be communicated with?
Sure. So good afternoon to everyone. And Sharath, thanks for that question. I come from the mutual fund world, and very popular is something called SIP, right? And I think I call that out because for me, when I look at communication and what we do in mainstay business, the simple expectation from the customer is, please make sure it is secure. It is, personalized, okay? And I'll talk about each of these. and it is, integrated for what I actually want from you. So firstly, security. Pandemic itself was everything to learn about being safe. And the largest challenge in whether it's any consumer or BFSI is making the customer feel safe when he is connecting with you, not in person at a physical branch location. The next one is actually more to do with being instant, okay? In a world of 10-minute delivery, the expectation of communication is 10 seconds, and that too is 9 seconds delayed. So the second is about being instant in communication. The third expectation that has been raised and now way of life is personalization, okay? Personalization for what my needs are, what my preferences are, what channel I'd like to talk to. I think, those expectations have gone up. We've already alluded to that. But yeah, security, instant, and personalization. That's the way I'd put it.
Great. So some of the takeaways from this section definitely is it's my time, my channel, my space at my pace. The second thing is UI UX is turning into customer experience now. Gone are the days when we're talking about user interface and experience. Four things, people can't work in silo. They have to work together as an integrated organization to give the integrated experience to their customers. And then, of course, the personalization and security are two main pillars that we are talking about. So if we just take this to the next section of our conversation, which is about just looking at some of the solutions that the businesses or financial services organizations are looking at. And maybe, Tushar, if I can bring you in here to say, can you share some examples where smart use of data and tech, be it analytics, be it AI, be it CRM, and changing world of CRM integration, helping enhance this customer engagement or retention?
Good afternoon, everyone. Nice question, Sharad. Now, we talked about personalization a while back. There's something which is the need of the hour, because when you're communicating to a customer, you need to understand what will generate the right response from the other side. Now, with AI, with analytics, it's possible that you identify which is my channel of choice, which will evince the right reaction. So it's a WhatsApp, it's an RCS, it's an SMS, or it's a voice call which will get the right reaction from me. Identifying which point of the day I'll get the right response. Because you're a busy guy, and you mentioned that it's customer wants to interact at the time which he feels or she feels is right. Which means that at midnight, if the guy wants to chat with someone in the contact center, we should actually make that available to him, accessible to him. So personalization is important, not till here, it actually helps you further. Now, if you understand by the usage pattern of an individual that what time a person will come back, make a purchase. Now, the platform can actually help you understand that, well, this guy has delayed his transaction. Is there something going wrong? Is he or she unhappy with the services we have rendered to them? Now, which it means that you need to quickly looking at the analytics and say, well, I need to go back to them and give them something which is interesting, which will get them back again on track. So it's important. So these are few things which definitely help you build the entire life cycle of the user. Apart from that, on the contact center side, it's essential that you actually keep the past record, and analytics, the AI, the entire data management actually helps you sense what were the past transactions which motivated or demotivated, which made them happy, unhappy. Now, when a contact center agent is interacting with a customer, you can quickly create a heat map also, which means that I can assess that the customer tone is shifting, which means what is my next action. The systems can even prompt you, AI can even prompt you that this is your ideal response from here onward. It can also prompt you that let this go, let your supervisor manage it. So these are things, which these combination of these things, these four smart things, can actually help you build the life cycle of the user.
Fantastic point, and we'll deep dive into some of those technologies as well in our next section. Personalization definitely is powerful. We all absolutely take that point, but it walks a very fine line with privacy. Um, Rajiv, the question is, how do you balance personalization with data ethics?
A very good question in today's time, I'll say. See, all of us have come to this FinTech festival and all of us have done registration, right? We've all given our personalized data. What for? How is it data going to be used? Have we told that this data is to be used only for this purpose, this, and then remove it? Now that's where you walk into any mall, any store today, the first thing when you approach the billing counter is give your mobile number. And we are very happy to share that mobile number. And the moment you say, I don't want to share it, there comes a word, we'll send your bill across. So you say, yes, you are going to be a part of ESG and doing a lot of favor to the ecosystem by not generating a paper and sharing your data. How is this data going to be used? So there is a fine line where how can this data be used and where it can be used. We are coming up with a DPDP Act which is going to be there, and that's going to make life easy as well as miserable. When I say easy, yes, as a person whose PI data is there, I know I have not given consent, so I can go here and there and sue everybody, whoever I got. But then as an ecosystem which is capturing this data, I need to know how I'm going to manage this data, and that consent management becomes very important. And that's where we have to draw. Because today, my friend Tushar talked about a lot of AI tools and ML tools. And you also, on a day in and day out, we receive a hell lot of messages, SMSs, nudges, saying that this is the best product for you, this is what to be told. Have we asked for it? Have we solicited any of those messages and everything? But then they have been done because there is an AI tool which is working on my data, this is working on the data set and trying to throw something to me which, as per that AI algorithm, is best suited for me. I don't know whether it is there or not. See, the example is, I'm there from Maharashtra. The moment I travel to Karnataka, suddenly all the ads which start streaming on my mobile are in of Kannada. Now, whether I want Kannada or I know Kannada, you want to listen to Kannada, I'm not aware. But that's the data personalization which is happening and how it is to be used. So there's a huge gaps there. And when this DPDP Act comes into play, the biggest factor is how do I am going to manage the consent. So the consent has to be taken first, taken for the purpose, and then it is to be used for that purpose. And the second biggest factor is how I am going to deal with the consent once the purpose is over. This consent is not for forever. So that is also to be done. So a lot of learnings would be there once the act is in place. But then, yes, as you rightly said in the question, today we are trading a very fine line between what is to be used and how it is to be used. And that's where while we say, yes, it's good, data is oil today, we say it's the next oil, and we start using it, churning it out, running a lot of algorithms and trying to use it to the best way, both in multiple C's. In the banking per se, you can say offering next best products, giving you best solutions, giving you the ease of access of the business, but at the same time, it has to be used cautiously very well.
Absolutely right. So two things. One, I think we'll probably ask GFF how are they going to use our data. That's for sure is one. And I think second, you spoke very well about the consent that we normally take or the financial institutions normally take. But how many out of us actually read through those 2,000 pages of consent in very, very fine print, right? That's another one to look at and then see how we can simplify that part of DPDP.
In fact, that's what one thing more is coming in. Consent given for what? That's right. And for what period? That's going to become much more important. So today we give a general consent. Yeah. So even when we develop apps, there's a very fine prints and we say we never read the fine prints. Terms and conditions, until as this you tick box, the things will not go forward. But now you will know what for you are going to give consent.
Very true.
In Bank of India, we are setting up a data protection officer now. There's a role which has been created as a data protection officer who is going to see how this data is going to be managed. And similarly, all the banks are now creating that roles. So that becomes much more important.
Fantastic point. Thank you, Rajiv. I think one of the other things that I've seen in omni-channel communications, and especially if it is on the digital channels, even if you make it multilingual and all of that, I think there is something missing there which feels not human, right? So my question to you, Peshotan, is how can BFSI organizations make omni-channel communications feel more human, not just an automated message to us, right? And we all get those like 20 times a day at least, if not more.
So firstly, I think, it's not either or. I don't think automation will replace the need for a human being to experience human touch. So for everyone, and you have multiple delivery channels, you have a branch, you have, the digital network, but the first assumption that many people work with, oh, you don't need the physical aspect of whether it is communication or interaction. I'm not a believer in that thought process. The second part on, the human aspect is contextual personalization, okay? And let me again give you a mutual fund example. We manage people's money. We can only attempt at doing a good job at it, but we can't take care of whether markets are on an upward or a downward trend. Now, a customer reaching out to you at a time when markets are extremely choppy or down by 25%, the context needs to be applied in communication when you're personalizing it for him and not trying to throw some future hope when he's today in distress, okay? So I think that stage has to still evolve, okay, for coming out for contextual personalization, and then bringing the last element, which is actually empathy in communication. What we say, how we say, because if we are dream merchants in our business, we sell hope of a better future through investments and markets. Having empathy in that journey right through, whether markets are up, down, or flat, will be, I think, bringing these three things together, human along with, nothing is more frustrating than using a tech device and getting stuck and not being able to figure out and having no access to a human being, okay? You have to apply context and you have to bring in empathy in how you communicate.
Perfect. So that concludes the second section of our conversation. I think some of the takeaways are very rightly said that it is important to use technology, as Tushar said, but at the same time, there is a very fine line with privacy. We have to take care of that. We as the industry have to take care of that. And of course, there are some human context in the personalization as well as empathy. Very, very important. And great that we have somebody actually who manages money for customers to actually, for some of their goals, which are very personal, right? So it's even important that those goals could be for a good thing or a not so good thing. So that's why it's important to have that empathy as part of that. Moving on to the third section of our conversation today, I think how technology and the future is changing the way that it is, helping communicate with customers with more empathy, with more rigor, and with agentic AI coming into play as well now. So if I may, call upon you, Tushar, which emerging technologies, according to you, are most impactful for having an omni-channel transformation within the unified communication platform as such?
Look, CPaaS has been around for a couple of decades now. Its capability to take on...
Can you explain CPaaS?
Okay, CPaaS is basically a cloud platform as a service, which allows any enterprise to integrate any channel through which they want to communicate to their end customers, and they can use that, which is SMS, voice, WhatsApp, RCS, email, and any of those OTT chat channels which are coming up. So the CPaaS platform is designed in a way that it can keep accommodating more and more channels in a way that you can communicate with your end users, which kind of is now essential today. So the adoption is very high, and the good thing is that its capabilities are encouraging more users. So CPaaS, I think, is a way of business. Alongside, what I see evolving is chatbots, which are modeled around AI, which means that the bot has been trained on certain databases. What are these databases? Let's say if it's a banking client, and banking, let's assume it's an insurance client, who wants to reach out to understand a certain premium which they have to pay, queries which are related to that. Now, how can you train this bot? Basis the archived data which is there with the insurance company, be it voice, it can be data, text, it can be email. the bot can be trained in a way that it can effectively respond to any query which may come. So this is now AI is built in most of the chat channels, which I touched upon while explaining what CPaaS is. Which means that AI can also sit along with these channels, which we assume that is only one way. It's only for push messaging. No, it's actually conversational platforms, largely the OTT ones, not the SMS, but the OTT ones. Voice goes without saying. Now, what is the evolution happening on voice is even more interesting. The same thing what you see in here, or you see a response you see on bot, same thing can happen on voice as well. Now, we talked about empathy and emotions a while back. Percy touched upon that. Now, interestingly, the bot are being evolved in a way that they can actually understand your emotion. We talked about heat map. So while an agentic is spelling out a response to a query, of course, they keep reading the emotions by the tonality of the voice of the guy who's responding. And then they see that what point they need to hand it over to a human agent, right? So of course, empathy comes in play, and it's essential that, the users treat it well. Now, this is imperative, I mean, we talked about CDP a while back. Samir touched upon that. CDP is essential, but I still, we're looking at some model which is able to put all this together in a way that can be consumed by these front-ending channels, right? So I say AI, I'd say CPaaS. UCaaS is, you said UCaaS. UCaaS is a unified communication channel. It's largely meant for enterprises to consume it, which means that if I have a Teams or Zoom, something which is consumed largely by employees, that's more meant for the internal organizations. But for the consumer side, I'd say CPaaS is a must. CPaaS is evolving into something called CCaaS, which is called contact center as a solution. And building all of this around AI is absolutely essential for enterprises to work along with.
Thank you, Tushar. Thank you. The other thing, I think, what we see, definitely there's a lot happening. And I think everybody say that AI is still at a very nascent stage, right? It has to learn a lot itself before it actually can learn, or people can learn AI as such. So, Samir, if I may ask you, if you were to predict, what will the omni-channel BFSI communication look like 5 years from now, keeping all the things in mind in terms of the advancement in technology and the ways of working changing as well for the financial services institutions?
So I think my fellow panelists said contextual personalization. And till now, I believe we didn't had the technologies to stitch the channels and make this happen. With AI, this can actually happen. There were two big challenges that prevented us from doing a contextual personalization. One was, how do you generate personalized content at scale, near real time, right? What I mean by personalized content is the language of customer's choice, the imagery of customer's choice. If I'm a cricket fan, I would rather see imagery around cricket, right? So this was not possible. With generative AI coming in, creating personalized content at scale, near real time is feasible. There are standard platforms. I think you must have visited Adobe Stall. Right. They have solutions. Second is you can also build your own solution for generating personalized content at scale, which we are doing at Aditya Birla Capital, where you can work with the likes of Google. There is Google Imagine, there's VO3, there's Azure, Sora. There's multiple tools which can be used where your brand guidelines can be put, and the content that gets generated will be personalized for customers near real time. The second big challenge that I alluded at the earlier session was, how do we stitch all these channels? How do I add, like my fellow panelists said, the customer goal to it? So with agentic AI, I think there's a real possibility of stitching all these channels together, because you can actually have an agent that can understand WhatsApp chat, understand the meaning of WhatsApp chat, or listen to a call, get a sentiment from a call, right? And transfer that to other channel. So I'll just paint a picture of how the future could look like with agentic AI. Just imagine in a traditional banking channel, we used to have relationship managers that's to get assigned to HNI clients, right? So you can actually have an AI virtual relationship manager attached to each one of you. This AI relationship manager has its own memory. So it can store your profile, it can store your goals, it can store your channel of choice, it can store the time of the day. If I want to receive commission on a Friday afternoon, vis-a-vis a Monday morning when I'm in meetings, when I'm most likely not going to look at the communication or not going to take that voice call. Agent will store the memory just like Perplexity or a Chat GPT stores. When you chat with it over a period of time, it builds a memory that is specific to you. So the agents that are going to work for you will stay dormant. They'll build a memory. And when a market condition happens, like a market going down, or say there's a childbirth, the agent that is assigned to you will get activated, look at what is the contextual financial product that fits your need, and then trigger a communication on channel of your preference, at the time of your choosing, and the content that appeals to you in the most best possible way. So that, I believe, will be the future. We're getting there, and AI is really going to make it happen in the next 3 to 5 years.
Very nicely said, Samir. Thank you for that. So I think the takeaways are, of course, AI, CPaaS, centralized data platform. They are all very important component from a tech and data perspective to enable what we are trying to do. But at the same time, I think that agentic RM would be a game changer. I'm definitely looking forward to that, to have somebody actually talk to me like an RM without me having a lot of money, right? So that will be interesting. Perfect. So that actually takes us to the trust, security, and compliance section, right? Where maybe, Samir, if I actually bring you in again to say trust is the currency of BFSI, right? Basically, you're dealing with people's money. So trust plays very important role. How can organizations ensure that omni-channel communication doesn't compromise on security or compliance?
Right. So one is, like my Mishraji mentioned, DPDP is coming. So consent needs to be taken for a specific purpose. So that's going to be really important. Second thing is designing security and data privacy at the design stage when we design this communication channel is going to be important. I think government is doing a great job in bringing trust. If you have seen TRI, right, they have moved to 1-400 and 1-600 numbers. So any telemarketing call has to go from 1-400. They are coming with something called CNAP, right? So customer name presentation. So that's going to be mandatory for all telecom operators to display which company is calling you, who's the person calling you. So all this is going to really improve the trust in voice channel, where earlier you saw things like Jamtara happening, all the fraud cases happening. So hopefully with CNAP and this 1.4, the TRI regulations, things are going to improve. We have seen on WhatsApp and the RCS channel, there are business verified tags on WhatsApp. So all this is going to work on the trust side. The second important part that prevents contextual personalization from happening in a BFSI sector, right, is if you really want to do personalization, you have to take approval from compliance for every marketing collateral you generate. And you have to take marketing approval on every script that goes on to the call center. And how are you going to do that if you're going to generate personalized content near real time? So that is where you'll actually have to build checker agents that can check a marketing collateral going to a customer, make sure it's not committing any guaranteed returns as mandated by SEBI or IRDA. So all those checks and balances. So as you're creating hyper-personalized communication, you need agents that are checker agents that will check the communication before it goes to customer. On a channel like a voice, which my fellow panelists mentioned, if there's a voice bot that's talking to customer, there has to be a SLM-based checker voice bot that will, in near real time, will have SEBI guidelines. And if the voice bot is trying to ask customer the age which is not permitted as per SEBI, it will ask the voice bot to ask the age bracket. Yeah. So there'll be a voice bot that is calling the customer. There'll be a SLM-based voice bot that will do the checking before the communication goes to customer. So that's how we can take care of some of the compliance needs while trying to achieve a contextual personalization.
Would we call it a 4-eye check?
Yeah.
No eyes, right?
No.
Okay. No, but well said, Samir. I think there is lots happening in that space, and I think it will be interesting to see how Jamtara actually catch up with that, right? Because they have to also come up with their own changed operating model. But yeah, we'll watch that space for sure. So with that, there is a lot of phishing and fraud attempts also happening in the market. And Tushar, if I may bring you, please, how can BFSI players authenticate communications and assure customers that messages are legitimate? Of course, apart from the 4-eye or whatever, 4 something check that that Samir spoke about.
I think education is critical, which I see some good effort happening from RBI. You see constant those messages coming to your inbox, which says that don't do this, don't share your OTP. Banks are also, encouraging that. They're sending a lot of messages out to the users. I guess the biggest one is, the sharing the OTP. So one, of course, education is imperative. But what we are working as an organization is to give you OTP-less authentication. It's called silent verification as well. What it does is that without the need of OTP, a transaction is cleared. The only thing is there are certain obstacles because people have got so used to receiving an OTP. There's something which happens without the OTP. It puts you in doubt. How did this transaction happen? Of course, there are certain challenges we still have to overcome, like what happens to feature phones, because this is largely meant for smartphones. And you know, in case you're latched onto Wi-Fi, so it's a P2A solution, which is too technical right to talk about. But yes, there is something we're working on. We're hopeful that in another a couple of quarters so, we'd be in position to take it to masses, enterprises in a way that they can start adopting it. But yes, again, even there, education is essential. Second thing is, which we've analyzed, is the challenge of SIM swap, where either SIM has been cloned, or while there's a transaction going on, there's an incoming call which doesn't allow you to authenticate a transaction, or doesn't allow the banking entity to figure out if this is a valid transaction or not. This typically will be very helpful for large value transaction where we can give a trigger back to the bank as a score that this seems like a safe transaction. So what is SIM swap typically? A SIM has been moved out. A lot of banks have done, are very progressive. What they've done is they do SIM binding. So what is SIM binding? SIM gets binded to the handset in a way that even if you take the SIM out for a second, you'll have to do the entire KYC all over again, which means SIM binding. Now, if the banks do not have this SIM binding solution, we can, with working with telecom operators, we can easily identify whether the last request which was generated and this request is from the same handset. It's not shifted. The SIM has not changed hands. So this is again another way of ensuring that we cover up for such fraudulent transactions. Lastly, I'd say that the messages which we covered earlier comes with a header. If you ever see anything which is coming with a header which is not identifiable, if I am using Bank of India as my account for my transaction, I need to clearly understand this transaction actually has come from Bank of India. If it's coming from any such unknown source, please do not touch those messages. Let it go. You may have to make another attempt, but do not honor such transactions.
It could be from Jamtara, right?
It can be from Jamtara, yes.
Fantastic. No, so I think there is a lot that's happening from a tech perspective. There is a lot that's happening from the institutions, financial institutions perspective. I think one area which I've seen in the last 7-8 years, RBI is taking a lot more proactive step in terms of dealing with fraud and some of these other challenges that we are facing. Rajiv, what role do you think RBI mandates or data protection laws play in shaping the strategy around omnichannel, right, for you guys as the financial services organizations?
So first of all, we should understand that RBI or any regulator for the country has to deal with two. One is India and another is Bharat. Now, how do I deal with India and how do I deal with Bharat? There's a huge difference there. And how do I perceive that? That's why anything which comes into any act that comes into it has to look from both the perspectives. The rural India, which we call it as Bharat, most of the banks, the 65% of the clientele still comes from that piece of people. We talked about feature phone, we talked about the present day iPhones and the smartest of the phones which are available. Now, you can do a bio-auth, you can do face auth, you can do multiple things without OTP, SIM bindings, but then is it available to the customer in Bharat? How do I do it? So that's why RBI or the regulators come in picture and they draw certain guardrails. So these are the guidelines which have been coming, they are to be taken as a guardrail. And now today, we have to look at anything which we do is compliance by design. It has any product, anything which we design. In fact, he was talking about saying that any collateral going out in the market, any publicity going into the market, any SMS going to the market has to go through the compliance clearance. So that's why it's a compliance by design which we have to look at. And basis that, I think it makes the life easier for both the sides. One, the user, the consumer, it becomes he knows, the trust factor comes into the play, that he knows there is a regulator who is keeping a close watch on it, and he says that it would be a regulatory compliant thing which is coming to him. Secondly, the body or the organization which is pushing that technology or the think piece, they are also following those guardrails and they say, yes, I'm being able to protect, and the trust factor comes into picture. Today, any SMS you receive, it will have a tag, whether it's a service SMS, which is a promotion SMS, it's coming from a verified source. He said business verified and all those things. So we have been graduating over a period of time the way that these general messages used to be there. Now they are much more personalized in the fashion that they have been earmarked, that if you look at it, you will be verified it is coming from Jamtara or coming from directly from there. And today, in fact, yesterday we did a POC, and we are in the product of doing it. If you visit Bank of India stall, you will find we are taking up a campaign where I'm offering an iPhone if you break that code. And you are just trying to see that it's an authentication through your face. Now, face auth with no OTP required, no SIM binding required, still I'm able to do that. It will help it. But then again, there's a limitation of Bharat and India there. How do I bridge that gap? So that's where also the banks, the technology partners, we are all working together to bring that as a seamless thing while ensuring that these DPDP Act, consent management, the guidelines, the guardrails which are there, they're fully implemented in total. So nowhere we have a very fine regulator who sees that he protects the customer at the prime thing. So customer interest is the first thing which needs to be protected, and that's where he takes care of it. But at the same time, business has to happen. And at the speed and the channel of my customer's design and choice. So that's where we have to marry all those things together. And that's why I say it's a compliance by design now, instead of being a construct earlier phases where we were looking at it.
Fantastic point, Rajiv, and I couldn't expect less from Bank of India, not talk about Bharat, right, and just talk about India. So thank you for bringing that up for sure. See, I think also we are so proud of our regulators that, globally, and I have been interacting with global regulators as well. I think there is a lot of learnings that the global regulators are actually taking from India, which is a great sign and a great brand building exercise across the globe as well. So kudos to RBI on what they are doing. So thanks for that, panelists. I think before we close, I have just one last question, Peshotan, and maybe if I bring you in here. What's one key step BFSI organizations should take immediately to strengthen trust and loyalty through better communication? As we figured out that this is the industry where innovation comes the last because of some of these constraints that we have or the regulations that we have, right? Because we deal with people's money and life. So what, according to you, should be the immediate priorities to strengthen the trust?
I think the first thing would be being consistent, okay? Consistent across your brand, your tonality, your colors, your logo. When someone sees you on one channel versus another, there can't be a variation where he's not able to identify or associate it with the same thing. So first is consistency. The second is you have to unify channels. Customers are increasingly preferring to use a specific channel by choice, and however will leave a footprint in multiple channels. There was an example of a conversation at a call center converting into action tomorrow on your app or a query day after on your website, and how do you unify this is. In BFSI particularly, we spoke of RBI and SEBI, IRDA, PFRDA, there are multiple regulators. But I think, with all regulators, there is regulatory laws, there is industry body best practices, and then there are self-ethical standards that you create. And I think bringing compliance on each of these on your own is going to be necessary for the future. The last point being making sure it is verified information rather than, and more so because you're selling something for the future, it is verified for correctness before it is delivered. So I think for us, it's that curve ball in cricket, which is being consistent, being unified for channels, being regulatorily compliant, and being verified for content.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Peshotan. So now you heard the panelists. If I may actually call upon you guys to talk or to say one word that is your takeaway from the session, what would that be? Anyone? Come on, guys. Perfect. Trust. Anything else? Fantastic. Fantastic. Bharat versus, well, I wouldn't say versus India. I think Bharat and India is the right word. Anybody else? Secure. Personalization. There is another word. Fantastic, guys. Very well done. Very well done. Anything else? Humane is my word. So thank you very much, panelists, for an amazing conversation. We can open up for any questions that you may have. Yeah, please.
Hi, this is Amboj Bhatnagar. I'm from Axis Bank. We are talking about hyper-personalization. One of the key challenges, at least in my view, we are facing is that with contextualization, we are thinking about reducing the communication that are being pushed actively by the bank. Now, the idea is that we had started to do this because we wanted to reach out to customers multiple times so that they know that what product we are selling and they can reach out to us. With contextualization and reduction in the cost, that also leads to reduction in businesses. Now, how do we manage the leadership to say that contextual communications is the way forward, but that might also lead us to reduction in businesses in middle? Or how do we manage this, the transition period?
Sure. Not sure I would agree to your point about it will reduce business, but anyways, Samir, please.
No, so I think traditionally all the BFSI companies have been looking at a spray and pray approach, right? Churn karo, more churn of the data and all that. So I'll take a small story, I'll take a 15, 20-second thing. So you know the story of Guru Dronacharya, right? So he put a wooden bird on a tree and told Kauravas, shoot the bird. But before you shoot, what do you see? So they said, I see branches, I see fruits, I see bird. They asked Arjuna, what do you see? He says, I see the bird's eye. And guess who got the shot? Arjuna. So similarly, if you really understand the needs, the wants, and the aspirations of the customer, so rather than bombarding him with SMSs and messages and all that, if you really look at that and look at what customer needs and direct your communication to that specific cause, I think, guess who will get the shot and get the conversion, right? So my request or advice is be the next Arjuna that customer is looking for.
Fantastic, Samir. Thank you so much for that answer. Amazing. Any other questions? Yes, please.
Hi there, thank you all. And my name is Amit Nawari. My question is around omnichannel and branch-based banking. So will omnichannel communications help banks and BFSIs move towards brand-based banking over a branch-based banking? Thank you.
Sure.
See, we have already moved from a customer of a branch to a customer of a bank. It was a long back story when the core banking came into picture, somewhere in 2004-05 era where most of the banks became core bank solution-oriented banks. We moved to that. Now, this omni-channel is going to help the customer be identified and being looked forward to be helped. Instead of he just walking in and being shown counter to counter, today he will come and he gets his service, whatever before he lands up in the branch, maybe the customer, the guy whom he's approaching is aware what is his requirement, what is it for. So that becomes making the service easier.
If I walk into a Starbucks counter and suddenly get an SMS saying that you have 15% discount at Starbucks, is there any other, experience that you can have better than that, right, is the question. Sorry, we have one more question at the back.
Thank you. Great thoughts, panelists. My name is Malik. I'm from Broadridge. Despite all this great tech and great ideas, why do my fund marketing material that comes to my email feels like still pray and spray? It's really not a rhetorical question. My real question is, what are three things that you think are really preventing from applying this technology to really impact somebody like me?
See, first of all, it is work in progress. So while we are speaking here that we should not be paint and spray. We all believe that, but then at the same time, a lot of technology has been built into to make it contextualized, make it hyper-personalized. So all of us are in a different stage of that work in progress. So while one way, one of our customer would be now realizing that he's getting the right thing which is required for him, the other one would be still getting that pay and spray part of it. So that would be there for some period of time, but then yes, the regulations coming into picture, they've been enacted, and we all gearing up to those things. You will definitely find change in the communication, the banks does it, and be more proactive and more interactive with that.
Actually, and that is becoming increasing a reality, which is contextual personalization, not just spray and pray. And again, I'll give a mutual fund example. We deal with markets, we deal with investors' money, we are the bridge between the two. What to communicate, in which condition, looking at data, and data is the oil, but not the solution. So who should get what communication in which environment to preempt action or to prevent action, both cases, I think has come a long journey already, but for life, I believe it will be work in progress.
Thank you. I know this subject is very, very, personal to all of us, but unfortunately we have to stop because the next panel is ready. But thank you very much, panelists, for your lovely conversation on the topic, and Godspeed to India as a nation. Thank you all. Thank you.